Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Unlocking Your Adaptive 7 Ways Forward. I'm JP, solution consultant from Revelwood, a global Workday partner. We've created this series to show you quick ways to make your planning more efficient and impactful. And today is going to be around workforce planning. And this webinar is really designed to both inspire and inform. It's offering a high-level view of workforce planning and its impact on business performance. And today we'll explore how organizations can move from operational and tactical planning to a more strategic, long-term workforce approach. So let's move to the demo agenda. So really 2 parts here. First part is going to be the operational and more tactical workforce planning. So really focused on the short term, managing things like attrition, internal transfers, new hires, and really closely linked to cost and financial planning. The second part is going to be more around strategic workforce planning, so more longer term, aligned with business goals and potential initiatives. So yeah, today we'll touch both of these topics and share how organizations can really mature their workforce planning approach over time. And we're also planning some follow-up webinars that may take a deeper dive into each of these areas. So with that, let me just dive straight in. So every plan starts with good data. So that's also the case with workforce planning. And with good data, in this case, that's data from your HR system. And what I want to do is just highlight what the information is that we are taking from our HR system, and what is the data that we are actually planning within Workday Adaptive Planning. So the current headcount and open positions, we take them from HR system, in this case from Workday HCM. And the planned positions, non-leavers and attrition, we have models in Adaptive where we can plan these and eventually get to a ending headcount number in a planned version. And then also to highlight all of these planned positions, known leavers, they can also be exported from planning and imported straight into your HR system. If you're using Workday HCM, of course, that's a really native interface. Because we're not just importing numbers, but also metadata. So you can drill down into things like job profiles. So if I take this open positions number, if I wanted to know the breakdown in job profiles, then I can just use the drill down function in Adaptive to get some more insights on what roles we have in the planning model. And you can take more elements from your HR system into Adaptive. This is just one example. So going back to our dashboard. So what you see in this dashboard, so this was just an overview. but I have some operational tabs and some strategic tabs. So operational is going to focus on departures mainly, and transfers, and also planning for new positions. We call it our supply. And if we move more to the strategic side of things, we also look at supply and demand, potential gaps, and also some skill analysis and potential gaps in skills as well. But let's start with operational, because that's really the basis of your plan. And what we see here on this dashboard is our current headcount, and that's coming from Workday HCM in this case. And we see 2 attrition numbers, voluntary and involuntary, and that's really driven by the departure reason, and that gets us to an ending headcount. And the model that we're using to plan that is a model sheet that you see right here. And what you see is that we have 3 attrition FTE driven by the position end date. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to create one example of a employee that we are going to put a position end date to, and a departure reason. I'm going to select at will. So that means that attrition is voluntary. And you'll also see that showing up within your KPIs in this dashboard. And I'm not going to show it how you do this, but you can also transfer people with this transfer in and out date if people are moving to other cost centers or switching roles or things like that. So let's move to supply. Again, data coming from HCM. So all of the open and approved positions are coming from HCM. They all have a job requisition number and a job ID. I'll show you that a little bit later on, what that means. And then we have some new requests, 4 in this case, and they are driven by these planned positions that have a planned position status. Again, for this, I'm also going to add 1 row. I already added it. So this chief operating officer, he left in October, so that means we need to hire a new one in November. So we need to plan that position, and I already pre-populated some of the inputs. And the only thing I'm going to add is I'm going to say that this is a full-time FTE. So when I save this, you'll see that there's a new planned request. So that brings us to a total of 5 and total open positions of 136. What we can do with this data, so of course this can be information for HR to start recruiting, for instance. So with Adaptive, we can take that data out of Adaptive and import it into our HR system. And again, with Workday, this is very much a native interface. And I'm filtering on all of the planned positions. So those are 5. If I'm filtering, if I remove my filter, you will see that also all of the 131 open positions are in this particular model. And if we scroll a little bit to the left, you see that they already have a job requisition number, because numbers like that are typically added in the HR system. Let's move to the strategic side of things. Demand gap, supply and demand. This really is the revenue goals linked to our supply. And 2 examples that I'm showing right here in graphs is 1 supply number in terms of hours, one supply number in terms of FTE, and they are both driven by this demand model that I have on the right side. And this is just an example of how you can model this. It's a simplified model, and really based on a call center. And we have some drivers to calculate what our demand is. So this is really based on the number of support calls a person can do in 1 hour. And then this is translated to a total number of hours that we need in a particular month. And what we also see is the number of hours that we have from a supply perspective. So if you combine the two, you can see if you have a gap in a particular month, and if you have a gap, you can take an action, and that action can be hiring new people. Maybe you want to hire someone temporary or someone permanent, but you can also choose to upskill people with this information or transfer people from other cost centers. It's also translated in FTE, and you see that we have the same gaps in FTE as we have in hours. That makes sense. But again, this is just an example. So this also works very well with unit sales, revenue models, or contracts, projects, things like that. Final part, skills analysis. So we have looked at a gap from a numbers perspective. This is really from a more qualitative skills perspective. So I going to select a different filter set. These are very useful. Filter sets that you can set on particular intersections, on levels, on job profiles in this case. So I'm looking at consultants, and I'm looking at the consultants, what type of skills they have. So on the one side, we have this talent pool in this sheet with the individual employees, and then the skills that they have and a rating on a skill. So that leads into an average rate that we see here on the left-hand side. And if we look at our required rate, those are gray boxes, this is driven by a model where we can enter our required rates per skill and per job profile. So this is really driving the comparison of what we currently have, and what we need, and potential gaps. And again, you can also take action based on this information. For instance, training can be done, but also hiring, and there's a cost element that can be linked to that can also be used within Adaptive. So that's the demo that I wanted to show you. Just to wrap things up, please visit our website. They're very useful tips and tricks. And there's a new one today around using dashboards for planning. This was also in one of the previous webinars, so go and check that out. And also on our Revelwood YouTube channel, there are a lot of useful videos that you can have a look at. And final piece, next week, there will be a webinar around performance and efficiency gains. So really making your adaptive work smarter, not harder. And we're gonna give you really useful tips to improve your performance. I see that there's one question in Q&A. Is there a module for workforce planning that is available without configuration requirements? I'm not sure if I fully understand the question, but I think the question is that it's like a pre-built application that would have a set of existing models and calculations and dashboards. No, we don't have that at the moment, but we can leverage best practices that we've used implementing other customers, and we can accelerate building of those configuration requirements if we're implementing Workday Adaptive Planning for workforce planning. So I hope that answers the question. I can't see who asked it, but if it's not answering the question, please feel free to send me a message via email, and I'd be happy to discuss that further. Okay, thank you, everyone. Thanks for joining. Hope to see you all next week, and enjoy the rest of your day.